As well as being an expert on money matters, did you know that Which also has a team of experts in various aspects of UK law? Which's legal advice service gives its members access to this team, allowing them to call up and get advice on a range of legal matters that impact consumers' everyday lives. Whether it's a rental dispute, a last-minute holiday cancellation, or legal employment advice, Which can give you personalised, one-to-one advice in a simple, convenient and affordable manner. Don't struggle in silence or suffer the stress of wading through endless streams of online information from unreliable sources. Join Which Legal and speak to one of our experts to get the advice and guidance you need tailored to you. What's more, the Which Legal offer is now live, meaning you can join and get legal support from Which for a whole year for just £69.30, a saving of 30%. Go to legalservice.which.co.uk to find out more, or click the link in the podcast show notes. This offer ends on the 16th of June, so don't miss out.
When life gives you questions, Which get answers.
Welcome to the Which Money Podcast, your weekly hit of money news and personal finance hacks to help make you better off. I'm your host, Lucia Ariano, and here's what's coming up this week.
They're great if you're on a commute to work and you've got 40 minutes on a train. It's a great way to use that time. You've got nothing else to do and you could just earn a little bit of money by sitting on a train into work.
If you're doing a shop, you check the app, there's something on there that's not going to take too much of your time. I think definitely get it in there and get that extra few quid.
This week on the podcast, we're looking at ways you can make yourself some extra cash, from banking incentives to some weird and wonderful tips with plenty along the way. We have a jam-packed show for you today, and to take us through it all, I'm joined by Which senior content writer Grace Witherden and Beth Tideman, who runs the site and social channels Budgets with Beth. Hello both, thank you for joining us.
Hi Lucia.
Hello.
Well, before we start, Beth, we had you on the show at the start of the year talking about a budgeting hack that's been all over TikTok. It's called cash stuffing, and it's something you've become very well known for. Can you just explain to any of our listeners who missed that episode what it's all about?
Of course I can. So cash stuffing is a budgeting method where you allocate physical cash to different envelopes or funds. And it's just a way of managing your expenses and controlling your spending. So you set aside a certain amount for things like food or petrol, and then you use that to do your spending. And once that money is gone, you've used it all up. But you might also be saving towards things like Christmas and birthdays, where you set aside a certain amount and build up those funds. And it just stops you overspending, going into overdrafts or pulling out on credit cards.
It's fascinating, and it's got a lot of people talking. And actually, I really should urge you, if you haven't heard this episode already, do go back and have a listen. That was from January this year, so do go back and have a listen. And shall we start then with one of my favourites? I think this could be maybe the easiest way to earn a pretty decent chunk of cash. And I've done it plenty of times. And actually, I'm due to give this a go again. Grace, I'm talking about bank switching. Before we get into the deals on the market now, can we just run over how it works?
Switching your bank is so easy now. There's something called the Current Account Switch Service, and it's a system that just does everything for you. So because you do it through the Current Account Switch Service, it automatically transfers all your bills and your direct debits to the new account, and then it closes the old account for you. So it really doesn't take a lot of admin to switch bank account. So yeah, it's definitely a very easy task to do.
And I can personally vouch for that as well. So I suppose for anyone listening thinking, well, okay, it sounds easy, but why would I bother? What deals are out there, Grace?
At the minute, there's actually quite a lot of deals to switch your bank. I had a check this morning before we recorded, and there were 5 offers right now, all from the big banks. So we've got offers from Santander, £175 to open one of its flagship cashback accounts, the Edge or the Edge Up. First Direct also giving away £175 to new customers that switch to its first account. TSB is offering £100 in cash if you switch, and then an extra £60 in cashback if you open one of its spend and save accounts. Lloyds is also paying £175 if you switch to one of its Club Lloyds accounts, and these offer lifestyle benefits like Disney Plus subscriptions and cinema tickets. And last but not least, Nationwide has a really good deal, £200, but it's only for existing customers, which means that existing Nationwide members need to be switching a non-Nationwide account to their Nationwide account. So not for everyone, that one.
So is that, if you've got a Nationwide savings account or a mortgage or something like that, or?
Yeah, it might be that you're already a Nationwide member. Perhaps you have an account with them, but it's not your everyday banking account. Lots of people have multiple accounts these days. So they want you to use your Nationwide current account as your main account. So that's why they've sort of done it for existing customers. If you're interested in that deal, if you're a Nationwide member, you can head to our website, because I've explained how it works, because they've got lots of offers at the minute. They're also giving away £100 to existing members as part of their A Fairer Share scheme, which they also did last year. We probably talked about it. It's good for Nationwide members right now. So if you are a Nationwide member and you want to check if you're getting the £100 and you're also interested in earning another £200, then check out our website.
We'll definitely put links to this and plenty of the other articles I'm sure we'll be mentioning as the show goes on today in the description of today's show. So do check that. And Grace, then what else do we need to know? Is it bad for your credit rating? Are there any kind of details that we should know before we switch banks?
Yeah, I definitely think you shouldn't just switch for cash. The cash is a really nice bonus, but then you're going to be stuck with the bank account. So if it's a provider that you're not sure about, I would definitely be led by what provider you're going to be comfortable with. So we regularly rank banking providers in annual surveys. So we know which banks we recommend as which recommended providers. First Direct is one of them, and that's how they treat their customers. So I definitely think that's worth checking out before. And also, if you're someone that likes to bank in person, it might be worth seeing if any of these banks that you're thinking of switching to have a local bank branch, if that's important to you. With your credit score, sometimes when you switch banks, it can cause a temporary reduction in your credit score, and it usually will go back up. But if you're thinking of getting a mortgage imminently, it might be best to wait until after that's sorted before switching.
And you mentioned as one of the deals available now, a cashback card. So let's talk about cashback. And while we're on banking, let's talk about those first. So Grace, how are banks offering cashback when you're spending? How does it work? And how much money can you actually make back?
So lots of providers actually offer specialised cashback accounts. I mentioned two earlier, the TSB one and the Santander one. The Santander Edge and Edge Up accounts, definitely you can earn the most. So with the Santander Edge account, you can earn 1% on cashback, capped at £10 per month for debit card spending on essential grocery, shopping and transport. And you can also get 1% cashback available, also capped at £10 per month on household bills paid via direct debits such as council tax, gas and electricity. So you can potentially earn £20 per month cashback if you're fulfilling all of that. And the Santander Edge Up is basically the same, but it's capped at £15 a month instead of £10. Cashback accounts usually do have a monthly fee because the idea is that they're paying you something, so that's why they usually do have a monthly fee to them. But you don't have to pay for a cashback account. Lots of other providers do offer cashback offers. So I know we've previously talked about Monzo, which launched a cashback scheme earlier this year. So that's not a cashback account, but they just have retailer offers with selected retailers. So, you're not getting blanket cashback on all of your spending. It might have to be, they might do an offer 1% cashback with Boots, 1% cashback with Starbucks, but the offers are going to frequently change, so you can't sort of rely on it with all your spending. It involves a bit more legwork because you need to see where the deals are. In some cases you have to add them or select them. With Monzo you're not going to get it automatically, so you can still earn cashback with other bank accounts, but it might just require a little bit of legwork to get the cashback.
And these kinds of cashback offers, they sound a little bit more like, the traditional, well, I say traditional to us, cashback websites, the likes of Quidco, Top Cashback. Beth, can you tell us more? What kinds of ways are there to get money back when you shop using these kinds of cashback websites or apps?
Yeah, so I would, as Grace said, regularly be checking them. They change so quickly. The percentage of cashback can change within a matter of 24 hours. So it's really key to look at those. I'd also be thinking about food shops where you can really get money back on those, Asda Rewards, Tesco Club cards. They all have different ways of saving points towards pots so that then you can claim those points into money vouchers. Asda Rewards is a great one where you can collect it through the year and then spend them at Christmas on special offers. So those are ways that you can make money through your rewards within food shopping.
And I suppose you can use things like Asda Rewards, that's separate to, say, going via a cashback site. So do you use cashback sites, Beth? Have you used cashback sites like Quidco, Top Cashback? They're the ones I'm thinking of naturally.
Yeah, so there is a fairly new cashback app that is called Jam Donut, and you may not have heard of it, but currently on social media it's doing the rounds as a less traditional type of cashback. So this is an app where you can get up to 20% instant cashback, where you upload almost to a gift card type of app where you might put £20 into a H&M cashback reward, and then you go into the shop and you scan a barcode and it will automatically give you the cash back. And it's a great way of kind of budgeting that money. So you want to go into a shop and spend a certain amount, you upload that money in advance, so it keeps some control of how you are spending that. But alongside that, they do weekly live. So every day, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m, they have a live where if you're watching the live stream, you could be put forward to win cash prizes or vouchers. And again, it's just another way of using cashback in one way on the app, but also receiving vouchers to spend in store that gets applied to your Jam Donut account.
That's really interesting. I've never heard of that one. And Grace, I feel like we've spoken so many times about cashback websites. For anybody who's not really familiar with them, if we rewind a little bit, how would you introduce them? How do they work?
A cashback site really is like an extra step that you should introduce when you're predominantly online shopping. So if I want to buy something from John Lewis, I might check Quidco or Cashback and see if they have any deals. And as long as I'm approaching the John Lewis link via those sites, it tracks my cookies. So you need to make sure that you're sort of allowing cookies. So it tracks that. And because I've gone via their website to purchase what I want, it will reward me cashback, and that cashback will be collected and stored on my Quidco or Top Cashback account, which then you can withdraw when it hits certain totals.
So as well as thinking about what Grace has just said, it's good to remember that sometimes the cashback deal isn't the best option, and you can sometimes find that there is a cheaper deal elsewhere. So it's always good if you're looking to buy a piece of furniture and you found that you can get 2% on your cashback, but another retailer is selling it substantially less. It's always worth checking out those deals first before making that purchase through cashback.
Very wise. And it does, as so often, it comes back to doing your research. You do have to put the time in. And now I've got quite a fun one, I think. I think this might be one of the lesser known ways of making extra money, and that's doing mystery shopping or answering marketing surveys. Grace, can we start with mystery shopping? How could anyone listening thinking, I'd like to try that, how can I get involved?
I was one of those people that really wanted to try this at the beginning of the year. I have some free time. I need to make some extra cash. So I saw some people recommend a few apps, which I downloaded. So to give a few, there's one called Roamla, Shepper, and Be My Eye. So they're all really, really similar. They all work the same way. There will be tasks that will be on these apps. You can select to do these tasks, and you have to follow the instructions, and then you'll get some money. But the tasks can really vary. So I often see ones that are check the state of the tomatoes in your local Waitrose or Sainsbury's, and that will require you going in, taking a few pictures, following the instructions down to a T, and you'll get paid a few quid to do it. So it's great if I'm already going to that shop. It's just an extra thing I can do to get a few quid. There's also review ones where it might be buy this product, leave a review, and we'll reimburse you for the product, and we'll pay you a quid for the review. It doesn't have to be a good review. You can be completely honest with what you think. So I've done this with a few milkshakes and fruit and nut bars where I've just gave my honest opinion. and had a free product out of it. So they're really easy, but the tasks go really quickly, I think. And then depending where you live, there might be more or less. So I always find that a lot of the tasks get snapped up really early where I live. So obviously all the best ones go really quick. But you know, if you live somewhere where not many people know about these apps, you've got like a competitive edge maybe, because maybe where I live, these are really popular, so everyone snaps up these tasks. But there are also a few that pay a bit more money, where you have to announce yourself. So they're not so much mystery shopping or like secret shopping, because you're going in, you're approaching the staff, you're saying what you're doing, and you're completing a task on behalf of brands. So my boyfriend's done a few around the Rugby World Cup. He had to like go into some pubs in our local area and ask if they were displaying some promotional brewery content that had been sent to the pubs. And he had to go in, introduce himself, ask for the manager and say, are you displaying these beer mats, these flags, whatever? And they just had to say whether they were or they weren't. And he was getting like £10 per visit there. So I think one lunchtime he made like £30, having the confidence to like go in and carry out these tasks. So yeah, I had a little look at my accounts. I was really trying to push this in January and February because I had a holiday in March, and I made £11.50 in January and £12.90 in February. So not loads, but I didn't do loads of tasks. I did the really easy ones like leaving reviews and, taking some quick pictures of tomatoes or whatever.
If it's taking you a couple of minutes and it's something you're already doing, then it's quite easy to just slot it into your day-to-day. Beth, have you ever tried mystery shopping?
I have, yes. I found that I made similar to Grace, where I was doing sort of the low pay challenges on there. But I do know that if you are willing to do the higher paying ones, where you might go and speak to somebody in the shop and ask them specific questions, you can get paid a little bit more for those. And I think if you're already out in a town centre and you check on and there is one open and you're already there, it's a great way just to make that little bit of extra without having to go out specifically for it.
That's definitely the trick. Like, I don't think you should build it around your day. But if there's, if you're like doing a shop, you check the app, there's something on there that's not going to like take too much of your time. I think definitely get it in there and get that extra few quid.
And what about marketing surveys then, Beth? How do these work? How do you sign up for these?
Yeah, so these are a great way if you are happy just to earn a little bit of extra money. So you can simply go on to sites like Atapol, Eureka, Oh My Dosh, Prolific, and you can sign up with an account, and then you'll be entered in. You put a few details in about your age, your gender, so they get an idea of who you are. And then you can just log in daily and you can fill in a survey. Sometimes you might want to do a little video recording where they ask you a question and you speak on it. And then you can just get surveys that are related to things that you're interested in, and you can answer them as often as you want or as little as you want to.
And how much money can be made from these kinds of surveys?
Yeah, so some of them are pennies, but they are very quick surveys. So it might be a 2-minute survey and you can earn, say, 15, 16p. So it's not very much. Some of the better survey sites like Prolific, you can earn up to £10 for a survey. They ask a lot of detail. They might be 30 minutes long, but they're great if you're on a commute to work and you've got 40 minutes on a train. It's a great way to use that time. You've got nothing else to do, and you could just earn a little bit of money by sitting on a train into work.
Could anyone do it? Is it hard work? A little bit more about the kind of how easy it is to actually do one of them.
Yeah, so some of them currently have waiting lists. I know the Prolific survey site, you do need to join a waiting list. So if you're looking to do that, I'd get into that waiting list as quickly as possible, and then you'll receive notification that you are in. They are easy to do, so it doesn't matter how much time you've got or what sort of level your understanding of something is. You can just go through those questions. I would think about the fact that some of these survey sites, they throw out attention grabbing questions to check that you are actually paying attention to the questions you're filling, so that you're not misleading in your answers. So as long as you're willing to give a little bit of attention to those questions and a bit of time, anybody can fill these out, and at any time of the day.
Yeah, I had a check with my balance for these because, January, February, and I was trying to earn that money. And yeah, I used some of the ones Beth suggested, Prime Opinion, Atapol, Survey Pop. So this just shows how many of these apps there are. And yeah, I'm on one of my accounts, I made £14.24, and on the other, I made £45.
Wow.
So what's that in total? Like 60 quid. And my rule was that I try and earn £1 a day. So when, instead of like doom scrolling like on the sofa, I would just be like, I'm going to try and earn £1 and I'll stop when I've earned £1. So that might be one survey. It might be like 3 or 4. But if you earn £1 a day, that's £7 a week. So it really quickly starts to add up. And then once you get to like, £5 or £6, you can like withdraw that money, especially some of the apps. You really don't need to earn much before you can withdraw the money to your PayPal or your bank account. So I'd withdraw it straight away, put it into my savings, my holiday savings pot. So again, I think, I don't want to dedicate my whole life to like doing surveys or like my time off. It was literally like when I'm on the sofa, maybe there's something on the telly that I'm not really watching and I could just answer it. I did find it really frustrating, like getting screened out a lot of them. Sometimes you can go through like 90% of the survey and then you'll get screened out because it'll be like, oh, hang on, you're not the type of people we wanted to answer this. So it can actually be really frustrating answering these, and you definitely don't want to be like staring at your phone or your laptop like all night. Like we don't need that. We don't need too much screen time. But if it's just like, as Beth said, like you can just do it on the train, on your commute, like you're not really losing any time there. And I do find that the political surveys tend to pay better, and we are coming up to an election. And I'm sure there's lots of polling companies that want to know people's opinions right now. So I'd say it's probably a good time to join them.
Another thing that I would just say is that if you are wanting to join multiple survey sites, it might be worth setting up a separate email account that is purely for those survey sites, so that if they are sending you notifications about surveys that you're able to do, they're all collated in one place. Some of the survey sites as well have third-party use, so you might end up receiving emails that you probably don't want in your main inbox. It might be worth having a separate survey email address that you sign everything up to from there.
Thanks, Beth. And I really like that idea of trying to earn £1 a day. It kind of sounds like the start of a how to invest as a beginner episode or something. But we'll come back to that maybe another time. And we've got plenty more tips to get through after a quick break from selling your stuff to some of the more kooky tips after this.
Do you want access to all of Which's expert product reviews for half the standard price? Well, act fast. Our digital annual offer ends on the 19th of June. That means time is running out to purchase an annual digital subscription at the low price of just £39.50. That's a saving of 50% and works out at less than 80 pence per week. A digital Which subscription gives you access to all of our product reviews, from fitted kitchens and ovens to mattresses, cars and televisions. Which purchase all the products we review and test them rigorously in our lab to ensure they are equipped for real-world demands. Our in-depth reviews are independent and impartial to give you the confidence to make informed purchase decisions that are right for you. The digital subscription also gives you access to the Which app, use of the Ask Which service where you can receive one-to-one personalised buying advice, as well as the digital edition of the Which magazine each month. What's more, sign up now and you will receive the 2024 Which Car Guide. So whatever you have planned for 2024, whether it's a new car or some long-awaited home improvements, save now with a half-price digital annual subscription and make better buying decisions all year round. Offer ends 19th of June.
Okay, now let's start with talking about making money from your old stuff. You know, many of us will be planning a spring clean right now, hopefully, which is the perfect time to clear out your clutter. And Grace, it's a daunting task, isn't it? But where would you suggest listeners start?
Well, I know we discussed this a few weeks ago on the podcast. Well, not myself, but I certainly listened to it. But Vinted's what I seem to always go back to. I have a lot of clothes to sell. Constantly changing sizes. I just go off things and I'm just always trying to clear out my clothes. So my go-tos are definitely like Vinted, Depop and eBay. All of those at the minute have had a bit of a change in recent months, so that it's really a seller's market. Like there's no fees for sellers at the minute. I live 5 minutes from some InPost lockers, so it's really quickly for me to like ship parcels. So yeah, that's definitely my like little, if I've got like a spare hour on a weekend, I'll be like straight on Vinted, like selling some stuff.
Yes, and I would recommend you go and check out that episode. It was all on secondhand sites like Vinted. So much useful advice in that. So do go back and have a listen to that if you haven't already. Beth, have you used any of these sites? Do you have any advice for people trying to sell stuff online?
Yeah, so Vinted has been my go-to, and some months I've made nearly £200 on Vinted just from
Really?
selling children's clothes that they've outgrown. It's just making sure that you're selling good quality items and you're representing them well in your descriptions. And again, as Grace said, if you live near an InPost locker, or you can have your parcels collected from your house if you're using companies like Every, so you don't even have to leave your house to have those collected.
And from selling your stuff to, I've got this next section called selling your time. And that we're talking about here, if you've got a spare afternoon a week or more. Grace, what exactly are we talking about? How are you suggesting that we make money from having a bit of spare time?
Yeah, so we're talking about all the other things like dog walking, cat sitting, maybe building some furniture, perhaps like renting out a room if you're lucky enough to have a spare room in your home. So I sort of stumbled across these back in my start of the year, having a look for like the side hustles people were using, wanted to make sure I was keeping up with the trends. And I found a lot on social media, this girl that did loads of dog walking. She didn't actually own any, she didn't have her own dogs, but she loved dog walking on her like lunch breaks and evenings. When she had a full-time job, she was trying to fit this around. And she recommended this app called Rover. And you can set up a profile on there if you want to do cat sitting or dog walking. So that was something I thought, that's really interesting. Like, if you love animals and maybe you work from home or you just have some like free afternoons, you could pencil in when you're free and get bookings.
And you mentioned renting out a room if you've got one. I suppose the website that comes to mind first is probably Airbnb for that. Grace, I mean, what would you recommend for anyone thinking, okay, I've got a spare room, or maybe I could rent out my entire flat and go and stay with my parents for the weekend? I know I've got a friend who used to do that. And what kind of advice would you have for anyone here?
Yeah, well, if you do have a spare bedroom, you can take advantage of the Rent a Room scheme, which allows you to earn up to £7,500 a year tax-free. And yeah, as we said, you can also, if you have a spare property, you can also rent it on Airbnb. I spoke to a Which member last year, actually, who rented out her London flat on Airbnb, and she'd picked up some like really good tips along the way, from like getting the pricing right, especially if there was like a hotel nearby. She provided parking for her guests. She always made sure like the flat was stocked up with tea and coffee to get really good reviews on her site. And if you don't have a spare bedroom or a spare property, which I'm sure many people don't, you can still make some money from your property. If you have a parking space you're not using, you can rent this out. If you have an electric charger, you can also rent this out. There's sites like Just Park or yourparkingspace.co.uk where you can rent that out, especially if you live like near a city. People are always looking to like rent a secure parking place for the day. And this one's quite quirky, but I did speak to one Which member last year who like rents his property out for filming, because he lives in this sort of like 1960s, 70s like shallow bungalow in Bucks, and he first rented it out for like a cat food commercial, but since then it's been used like 30 times for like music videos, films, magazine shoots. So there's sites that you can put your property on, if it's a bit interesting looking. So like my old road, actually, where I used to live, they filmed a Netflix show up there last summer, and it was a really interesting, it wasn't that, it was a really nice looking flat, but there was nothing special about it. But it just shows that it must have been on one of these sort of lists where people just scout for locations.
What a great way to earn some extra cash. We're already getting onto the kooky and the more left field, which we'll end with. But just before we get there, Beth, is there anything that you'd add to, these kind of renting out your spaces or, extra time that you might have?
Renting out things like gadgets that you might have in the home or tools. And at the moment, lots of people are looking to rent out designer handbags or shoes that they might have sitting in their cupboards that they can rent out for a night to somebody that wouldn't normally buy a pair of shoes that are more expensive, but they can rent a handbag, a dress, an occasion wear. I think that's a great way to use some of the items you might have that you don't use every day, but it will just give you that little bit of extra money coming in.
That's really interesting. Have you used any sites like that? I haven't personally heard of any where you can rent out your own stuff as well.
No, I've seen lots of things on social media of people who are starting to set up pages for that, where they are listing the items they've got. So just on social media, quick search of hire out or rent out designer handbags, and I'm sure you'd come across some of the things that are happening right now.
Yeah, and I was going to say there's also a site called Fat Llama, which we looked into briefly last year, where you can hire out your household items, but like film and photography, DJ equipment, garden tools and furniture were some of the most popular categories last year. And they've all got this site offers lender protection up to a certain amount per item. So again, like with all of these tips, like if that's something you think, oh, okay, I've got this camera I could lend out, like maybe check the site that you're going to do it through first to check like what damage and like policies are in place to like protect your items.
It's definitely worth checking that you feel that your item is going to be safe if you are renting it out. And I've actually used Fat Llama and had a good experience. I rented a speaker for a party, and it was a great experience. It was kind of like using Gumtree in that, I went and picked it up in person and dropped it back off 24 hours later. And finally then, before we finish, any more of the weird and wonderful, the wackier things our listeners might not have thought of to earn a bit of extra cash. Beth, do you want to start us off? Because I've heard that you've been looking into ways you can help tourists coming into town.
Yes, I came across a few wacky ideas as I was doing this. One of them was a website called showaround.com. And this is a website where you create a tour of the area you live in, and then you sell your services online. So if somebody is coming into your area, so maybe somebody's coming to visit London for the day, they can go on and find a tour guide that they might book for an hour, and you can charge whatever you want to for that. There's no set amount from the website. So the average at the moment is between £15 an hour to £45 an hour. And you might just take somebody for an hour to some of the unique places in your area, or maybe to some of the landmarks or historical places. And it's a great way if you've got a spare Saturday afternoon just to earn that little bit of extra money in a fun way to do that.
I suppose you could do a brewery tour or anything kind of like anything that you're interested in already.
Yeah. And the great thing is you can choose who you do that to. So you can get a booking through and you can decide, is this the kind of person that I want to show around? Is it fitting around a time that I've got? And it's a great way to manage your time and just make that money.
And Grace, is there anything you'd add on the kind of this trail of the wackier side of things?
I have got a quirky one, actually. One of my boyfriend's friends rents out his car.
Really?
Yeah.
That feels quite brave to me.
Yeah, and he said this to me. So obviously I looked into it for Which last year, and there are actually sites, again, that will facilitate this, so it's all done properly. There are websites like Hirecar, Turo and Get Around. You can set your own prices, but you usually have to organise the handing over the keys yourself. And obviously the money you make will depend on the type of car and how often you rent it out. But yeah, obviously these platforms usually provide insurance, but you probably need to check with your existing insurer that you're not going to break any terms and conditions by doing this. But I spoke to a few members that were doing this, and I spoke to one woman actually that had made a little mini business out of this. She lived near Heathrow, and tourists always wanted to rent her car when they landed in London. She did tell me the story actually about how there were Americans and they weren't used to driving on the different side of the road, and she was a bit worried. But the car came back in one piece. So yeah, that's definitely an interesting one. You'd have to have a lot of faith, I think, but people are doing it.
I did also find one other thing that really caught my attention. It's a website called uspotproperty.com, and it is about if you find a derelict building out and about, you can report it to the website. And if you're the first person to report that derelict building, you can get a £20 Amazon or M&S gift voucher. Then if the property developing company who run the website go on to purchase that building, you can receive 1% back from the price that they pay for that building. And I just thought it's a great way, if you're out and about and you just see something, to pop it onto the website, and you never know, you could earn a little bit of extra money at the end.
We have really covered so much ground today, and I hope it's given you some food for thought on ways that you can earn some extra cash. Grace and Beth, you've been brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, a huge thank you again to Grace and Beth for coming on the show today, and to you for listening to this week's episode of the Which Money podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do hit subscribe to make sure you catch our new episodes as soon as they drop. For daily money news and advice, you can find us on social media at Which Money and online at which.co.uk/money. And we also have a free money newsletter which is delivered to your inbox every Monday. To sign up, visit which.co.uk/money newsletter. This episode of the Which Money podcast was written by me, Lucia Ariano, and produced and edited by James Rowe.
Like listening to podcasts just like this one from the team at Which? Well, we've got some good news. All our podcasts are now available to listen to on YouTube and YouTube Music. So whether you like listening to Get Answers, Which Shorts, or Which Money, all episodes can now be listened to directly on YouTube or through the YouTube Music app. To find them, just search for the podcast you'd like to listen to. YouTube's additional functionality also means that you can now read along with subtitles as you listen. Don't panic though, all Which podcasts are still available to listen to elsewhere too. So wherever you listen, we'll see you soon.